Ram,
Krishna
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare
Hare
Ram
Ram,
Ram
Hare
Ram
Ram,
Ram
Ram
Hare
Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare.
श्री सरी गौर भक्तवृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपीकांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कंचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। तो श्री राधे गोलोकानंद भगवान की जय। बोलो श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। हरे कृष्णा एवरीवन।
Hare Krishna everyone.
Hare Krishna भैया हरे
जय
कृष्णा
हरे कृष्णा रीना जी। हेलो ज्योति हरे कृष्णा। Alright. Hello KLJ. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. All right. So we'll get started. तो कल हम लोग श्लोक 11 पढ़ रहे थे. And as we know, we are reading Canto 3, which is book 3. There are 12 cantos in whole Srimad Bhagavatam with 18,000 shloks. Yeah. We are slowly progressing. We are on Canto 3 and chapter 27. Yeah. Chapter 27 on Shlok 11. तो जैसा कि हमें पता है इस अध्याय में और इसके पहले वाले अध्याय में भी हम कपिल मुनि के बारे में पढ़ रहे हैं, राइट? एंड कपिल मुनि इज नन अदर देन अवतार ऑफ लॉर्ड विष्णु. या सो कपिल मुनि इज फेमस फॉर स्प्रेडिंग सांख्य ज्ञान. सांख्य ज्ञान is the ज्ञान about devotion and the self realization, like how do you realize yourself, how do you realize your soul, and then how do you really devote to Lord Shri Krishna. That's what Sankhya Gyan is. And in this chapter, Kapil Muni ये transcendental knowledge mother Dehuti को दे रहे हैं, and Dehuti is Kapil Muni's mother actually. And Karda Muni, who is Kapil Muni's father, he left for sannyas and he asked Kapil Muni to give transcendental knowledge to mother Dehuti. So that is what we are reading right now. कल हम लोग श्लोक 11 पढ़ रहे थे, where Kapil Muni is saying, so in the last chapter we saw Kapil Muni explained about the fundamentals of material nature, which means how this material nature is composed of, how this has been created, what are the elements in it. So it's a huge science in itself, right? So with those we saw the 24 elements, then we saw the time element and the Mahat Tattva, and then how everything got created, and then we as a conditioned soul, how we came in existence. Yeah. And now Kapil Muni is explaining the nature, materialistic nature, like how do we understand what is the material nature. Yeah. So in this shlok, yesterday we read, it says that a liberated soul realizes the absolute personality of Godhead, right? Once a soul is liberated, right? Any one of the devotees get liberated soul, right? Then who is transcendental and who is manifest as a reflection even in the false ego. He is the support of the material cause and he enters into everything. He is being referred to Lord Shri Krishna, yeah, the Lord Vishnu in this case. He enters into everything. Sarva Anushrutam is the Lord Shri Krishna enters into everything. So even though he's in the spiritual world, even in this materialistic universe, he, Lord, enters into everything, yeah, and he is absolute one without a second. So even though he enters into each atom and every element, he is still one. He is one absolute, is what is being mentioned. And he is the eyes of the illusory energy, right? So he is the eyes of the Maya here in the materialistic world. Ultimate point which is being made here by Kapil Muni is that everything has come from Supreme Lord himself. Even the materialistic nature has come from Supreme Lord himself. So it's a nice purport we are going to read. Ajay?
Sure. A pure devotee can see the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in everything materially manifested. He is present there only as a reflection, but a pure devotee can realize that in the darkness of material illusion, the only light is the Supreme Lord, who is its support. It is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita that the background of the material manifestation in Lord is Lord Krishna, and as confirmed in the Brahma Samhita, Krishna is the cause of all causes. Hare Krishna.
No, Sarva Karan Karanam. We have read that before, right? So Krishna is the cause of all causes, is what is being mentioned here. Sangeeta ji, padenge aap?
In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated that the Supreme Lord, by his partial or plenary expansion, is present not only within this universe, in each and every universe, but in every atom, although he is one without a second. The word Advayam, without a second, which is used in this verse, indicates that although the Supreme Personality of Godhead is represented in everything, including the atoms, he is not divided. His presence is in everything is explained in the next verse. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, yeah. So Lord Krishna is the source of everything, is what is being explained by Kapil Muni. We will start with the Shlok 12 now. So Anil ji.
यथा जलस्थ आभासः स्थलस्थेना भद्रश्यते स्वाभासेन तथा सूर्यो जलस्थेन दिवि स्थितः. The presence of the Supreme Lord can be realized just as the sun is realized first as a reflection on water and again as a second reflection on the wall of a room, although the sun itself is situated in the sky. Hare Krishna.
Krishna. So I think the way it's being explained is the Supreme Lord, even though he is situated in Golok, right? He is realized everywhere and he enters into everything. And for us to understand the sun, we know sun is situated in the sunlok, but we all can feel it and we all see the rays and we can see the reflection of sun. And that's how it's being explained here. And in fact, it says that it is confirmed in the Ishopanishad that the presence of the Lord is perceived everywhere by the liberated soul. So once somebody is self-realized, right, he understands that he is not this materialistic body. That's what the liberated soul is being referred as. Then, just as the sunshine and the reflection can be perceived everywhere, although the sun is situated far away from the surface of the globe, right, the presence of the Lord is perceived everywhere by the liberated soul. Rinaji?
अहंकारो भूतेन्द्रिय मनोमये स्वभावशैलक्षिप्तो अनेन सदाभासेन सत्यदृक्. The self-realized soul is just reflected first in the threefold ego and then in the body, senses, and mind. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, and I think it's explained nicely here. Let's read this paragraph, Tarun.
By the understanding of the pure soul called Satya Dark, one can see everything as a reflection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A concrete example can be given in this connection. A conditioned soul sees a very beautiful rose. He thinks that the nice aromatic flower should be used for his own sense gratification. This is one kind of vision. A liberated soul, however, sees the same flower as a reflection of the Supreme Lord. He thinks, this beautiful flower is made possible by the superior energy of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, it belongs to the Supreme Lord and should be utilized in his service. These are two kinds of vision. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So what is being explained here is, if we have the materialistic consciousness, how we think, and if we have got the spiritual consciousness, then how it's thought in terms of the service to the Supreme Lord. Yeah. And we are the conditioned souls. And that's what is being, explained here, how the different mindset is in this scenario. Jyoti?
The conditioned soul sees the flower for his own enjoyment, and the devotee sees the flower as an object to be used in the service of the Lord. In the same way, one can see the reflection of the Supreme Lord in one's own senses, mind, and body, in everything. With that correct vision, one can engage everything in the service of the Lord. It is stated in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that one who has engaged everything, his vital energy, his wealth, his intelligence, and his words, in the service of the Lord, or who decides to engage all these in the service of the Lord, no matter how he is situated, is to be considered a liberated soul or Satya Dhruk. Such a man has understood things as they are. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So what is being explained, who is really a liberated soul, right? So the one who has engaged everything in the service of the Supreme Lord, right, is being described as a liberated soul. Sachin?
मनो बुद्ध दिश्विह निद्रया लीनेश्वसति यस्तत्र vinidro nirahankriyah. Although a devotee appears to be merged in the five material elements, the objects of material enjoyment, the material senses, and material mind and intelligence, he is understood to be awake and to be freed from the false ego. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So I think an important fact is being mentioned here. Like, even a pure devotee, if we see in this universe, we will see that he is still doing all the same activities which we are doing, right? Like, we are still, of course, part of these five material elements and all that. But he who is a devotee, pure devotee, right, self-realized soul, says here, vinidro, like he's always awake. And he's freed from the false ego. He says, nir aham kriya hai. He is free from the false ego. I think that's what is being mentioned here, how a devotee is being described, right? And again, a very good purport. We'll read some of it here. Ravi?
Yes. In the example given by the Jiva Goswami, is that the green bird that enters the green tree appears to merge in the color of greenness, but actually the bird does not lose its individuality. Similarly, a living entity merged either in the material nature or in the spiritual nature does not give up his individuality. Real individuality is to understand oneself to be the eternal survivor of the Supreme Lord. This information is received from the mouth of Lord Chaitanya. He said clearly, upon the inquiry of Sanatan Goswami, that a living entity is the survivor of Krishna eternally. Krishna also confirms in Bhagavad Gita that the living entity is eternally his part and parcel. The part and parcel is meant to serve the whole. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So I think this is a very important paragraph mentioned here, right? What it says is that each of us have some individualistic character, right? Each of us. So even though we are not this materialistic body, we do have an individuality. So even as a living entity or even as a soul, because you will see, like most of the places, they'll say, oh, the soul and everything is one and everything merges into one. And that is what is being kind of reflected here, that it's not that everything merges into one. We still retain our individuality as an eternal soul. We just get rid of the false ego that we are not this materialistic body, but we are the spirit soul. And what is being mentioned here is that a living entity is the servitor of Krishna eternally. Like that's our original constitutional position as a soul, because we are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, right? All the spirit souls are part and parcel of the super souls. So like, if you look at our materialistic body, each part and parcel of our body is to serve our body itself. Similarly, the part and parcel of Supreme Lord is to serve Lord Sri Krishna himself. And that is our eternal position. So a self-realized soul realizes that, and they they constantly engage themselves in the service of Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. That is what is being mentioned here, right? Krishna also confirms in Bhagavad Gita that living entity is eternally his part and parcel, and is meant to serve the whole. And so this is the individuality. So we don't lose our individuality. That's the big concept here is we still retain our individuality. So it's not that you will just go and merge in some energy or something. So that's an important fact mentioned here. So we'll continue to read this. KLG, आप पढ़ेंगे? Dev,
हरे कृष्णा, मैं स्किप करता हूँ गजेंद्र जी, मैं थोड़ा छोटे डिवाइस पे हूँ।
Oh, अच्छा, आप देवेंद्र, अच्छा, ओके, I thought it was someone else.
नहीं, वो संगीता नीचे डाउनस्टेयर्स थी, तो मैंने अलग डिवाइस पे वो लॉगिन किया था। जी।
No worries. Okay, thank you. Yeah. So,
संगीता।
हाँ, आप पढ़ दो, संगीता जी। Yeah.
It is so even in this material existence, when the living entity apparently merges in matter. His gross body is made up of 5 elements. His subtle body is made of mind, intelligence, false ego, and contaminated consciousness. And he has 5 active senses and 5 knowledge-acquiring senses. In this way, he merges in matter. But even while merged in the 24 elements of matter, he can keep his individuality as the eternal servitor of the Lord, either in the spiritual nature or in the material nature. Such a servitor is to be considered a liberated soul. This is the explanation of the authorities, and it is confirmed in this verse. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, yeah. So, I mean, we saw in the last chapter, right? हमने देखा कि कैसे 24 elements, which were the 5 gross elements, 5 shuttle elements, we saw that. And then 4 elements, mind, intelligence, false ego, and consciousness. And then 5 karmendriya and 5 gyanendriya, knowledge acquiring senses, right? How the materialistic creation takes place. So that is what is being again mentioned here. So I read the next shlok. Hare Krishna, Rasiksham Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, nice to see you. पढ़ेंगे आप?
Yes. Manyamastadaatmano ashto nashtanamrisa nashte ahankarane drishthanastivita ivaturaha. The living entity can vividly feel his existence as the seer, but because of the disappearance of the ego during the state of deep sleep, he falsely takes himself to be lost, like a man who has lost his fortune and feels distressed, thinking himself to be lost. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, yeah. So I think Kapil Muni is describing the difference in one's a self-realized soul and one's the materialistic conditioned souls. How we feel like when we are sleeping, we think, and then when we wake up, we are again in the same shape of mind, right? So let's read the next shlok, Jyoti.
Evam pratyavamrushya savatmanam pratipadhyate sahankakarasya dravyasya yo vastha anumanagruhaya. When by mature understanding one can realize his individuality, then the situation he accepts under false ego becomes manifest to him. Hare Krishna.
Krishna. So what it's saying here basically is, you see, like, but as long as one falsely thinks I am the injurer, right? That's the self-ego, ahankar, or I am the Lord. This concept of life continues and one remains conditioned. So when we are conditioned, we think we are this body. Yeah. And as soon as the false ego is eliminated, one is liberated. So the question is, how do we get rid of the false ego that we are not this body, and how do we realize that we are actually the soul, right? So as confirmed in the Bhagavatam, situation in one's real constitutional position is called mukti or liberation. Yeah. So Kapil Muni is explaining that in detail, and let's read the next shlok. Ravi.
Devahuti uvacha Purusham prakriti brahmanna vimunchyati kahirchita anyona yapasha yat vacha nityat vadanayo prabhu. Shri Devduti inquired, my dear Brahmana, does material nature ever give release to the spirit soul? Since one is attracted to the other eternally, how is there separation possible? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So Devahuti, who is Devahuti?
Kapil Muni's mother.
Kapil Muni's mother, yeah. And Kapil Muni is giving this transcendental knowledge to Devahuti. Yeah. So Mother Devahuti is now asking that, does material nature ever give release to the spirit soul? Yeah, that's a question all of us have, right? Like, how is this different? Because we are so entangled into the material world. How can the spirit soul be released from this material world, right? Since one is attracted to the other eternally, how is this separation possible? So that's the question which Devahuti is asking Kapil Muni. Yeah. Like if we read this, Rinaji.
The mother of Kapil Dev here makes a first inquiry. Although one may understand that spirit, soul, and matter are different, their actual separation is not possible, either by philosophical speculation or by proper understanding. The spirit soul is the marginal potency of the Supreme Lord, and matter is the external potency of the Lord. The two external potencies have somehow or other been combined, and since it is so difficult to separate one from the other, how is it possible for the individual soul to become liberated? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, so that's a question which Devahuti is asking. Yeah, and we'll see the response from Kapil Muni. Let's do one more shlok. Anilji.
Yeah. Yatha, excuse me. Yatha gandhasya bhumescha na bhavo vyatirekatah apam rasasya cha yatha tatha buddhe parasya cha. As there is no separate existence of the earth and its aroma, or of water and its taste, there cannot be any separate existence of intelligence and consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, so Mother Devahuti is saying that, as we know, earth represents the aroma, right? The smell. Water represents the taste, and those cannot be separated. So similarly, Devahuti is saying that intelligence and consciousness cannot be separated. So that's the question she is asking to Kapil Muni. Yeah. think let's just do one more shlok quickly, Ajay.
Akartu karma bandhoyam purushasya yadashrayah guneshu satsu prakrite kaivalyam teshvatah katham. Hence, even though he is the passive performer of all the activities, how can there be freedom for the soul as long as material nature acts on him and binds him? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, so that's a question we all have too. Like all this material nature, Satogun, Rajogun, Tamogun, they are all binded by this. Yeah, and how can we really free our soul from all this? So we are going to pause here, and we will continue reading this tomorrow, same time, 9:50. Yeah. And as we know, last week was Holi. So hopefully everyone enjoyed Holi. And on the day of Holi is also Gaur Purnima, which is Purnima of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the one of avatar of none other than Radhe in the form of Radhe Rani, avatar of Lord Krishna in the form of Radhe Rani, right? And he is the one who has given us this Mahamantra, Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So, his Jayanti was last week. We are going to see a celebration of Abhishek in London temple. Yeah, so this week we are going to see that. So we'll see that for a couple of minutes and then we'll see you tomorrow. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
London temple.
Krishna Krishna Hare